Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Do Drugs. I am your host, Alia Janine, and today, all the way from the West Coast, I have Ashlee Evans-smith, who happens to be a very popular MMA fighter, professional at that. I'm not afraid of very many women, and then I saw a couple of your fights, and I'm like, oh, she could hurt me. I grew up because I'm tall. I'm 5'11", so. And my dad's really tall. So it's like anytime I walk into a bar and there's like a girl taller than me, my first thought is like, oh, fuck, am I going to have to fight this bitch? I don't know why that is. I think maybe my father instilled that in me because he's 6'10". So yeah, like as I got older, I'm like, oh no, girls could totally kick ass. I'm like, yeah, that's.
Yeah, my perfect height, I'm 5'8". I always say I wish I was 5'11", because then with heels on, I would just be taller than everybody for the most part.
Yeah. Whenever depending on how tall they are, like I used to be a stripper, so I used to wear like those 6-inch platforms, so I would be like 6'6", 6'7", and dudes be like, oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, there's a couple shoes I'm like, all right, this is a little ridiculous, because a lot has to do with balance too. I have weak ankles, so my ankles would give out. just be standing completely still else on my ankle, and I'll be like, oh, okay, no, I'm fine. I'm totally.
Stripper with weak ankles does not sound like a fun time.
No. And alcohol, and then you mix alcohol on top of it, and it is a disaster. But yeah, I also don't fall gracefully either. It's like a lot of arms flailing and making funny faces. It's great. It's good times. So tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been a professional fighter?
Yeah, I have been professional since 2012.
Okay.
I'm 34 years old. I think I was 23 when I started. So over a decade, I've been professional. And then before that, I had a few amateur fights, but I was in college right before I started my wrestling career. So I basically went from high school wrestling in a very small town in Northern California, college wrestling in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley. And then as soon as I graduated, I got right into MMA. And so I've always been an athlete, whether it was a little wrestler girl in high school, collegiate wrestler, traveling internationally to wrestle other women, and then transitioned right into mixed martial arts, where I fought a little bit of amateur, but pretty much went pro right away, right out the gates. And that was in, like I said, 2012. And so much has changed in the mixed martial arts world since then.
Yeah. Do you so you have to train a lot. Like what types of like martial arts do you know, or like do you have to know to actually like be a professional?
Well, I mean, I'm in the UFC. It's the highest level of mixed martial arts. It would, people who don't understand that would be the NBA of mixed martial arts. It's the NFL of MMA. And you have to be prepared in all areas. So there's grappling, whether that's jujitsu and wrestling. There's other grappling, but those are the main ones. And then you got to have your striking on point, because it starts on the feet, right? Yeah. So there's boxing, there's Muay Thai, there's other things, but those are the two big ones. Some people are proficient in Taekwondo. Me, it's really just boxing, wrestling, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. Those are the core disciplines that I train in. You can always add judo, which I've played around with in my college years and stuff like that, which is very important, but those are the ones. And then on top of that, you've got to make sure that your conditioning, so your cardio, your strength is up there as well. So you're pretty much always in the gym training, whether it's lifting weights or punching people or getting punched.
Yeah. I could take a punch. That's for sure. I just started taking kickboxing classes, and I'm a smoker. I've been smoking for like 26 years or whatever. I love it. It's one of my favorite disgusting habits. But like it's 45 minutes, and the cardio, like I actually have really strong lungs. Like the last time I went to a doctor, he's like, that's actually impressive. I'm like, thank you. But when I take this fucking class, I am just dripping in sweat. I'm also older, so I'm like, fuck, this is either going to kill me or like help me. Yeah, that you guys go through, because I like watching UFC stuff, and I like boxing and stuff like that. I like hockey because they get to beat up each other. So I've always enjoyed those type of sports and stuff like that. Physically, like you said, you have to train so much. Especially in those types of industries where you have to be like physically strong. Is there a lot of like issues with like steroid use or like enhancing, type stuff, and then pain stuff as well, because obviously you guys go through a tremendous amount of pain. Is there a lot of like issues with that, and how does the UFC like deal with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, with any professional sport, there's always going to be some sort of PED, performance enhancing drugs, steroid, anabolic, all that kind of stuff. If they say, if someone says, oh, there's nothing like that in our sport, they're lying. There's always somebody trying to find a loophole and trying to weasel their way and get better, get the advantage, get the edge. And it's sad, but it's just, it's been happening from, since day one in sports, since they developed steroids. But I'm very lucky that the UFC, they basically have a governing organization called USADA, United States Athletic Doping Association, or something similar. What they are, they oversee all of the UFC, and so they do random drug tests. They basically make you tell them where you're going to be at all times. Like right now, there's an app that, it says right now my location is at home. So if they want to randomly drug test me, knock on my door, make me pee in a cup, sometimes take your blood. And if you can't pee at the moment, they'll
wait around.
And then you basically have to pee in front of them. So it's always a female representative, but if you're wearing a baggy shirt, she's like, pull up that
shirt and stuff.
Gotta see the pee. Leave
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I remember like Lance Armstrong, I guess like he was injecting clean urine into his bladder or something like that. And that is insane to me. I mean, like that's dedication to being like, if you're going to go for the full on, like, hoax or lie or grift or whatever, like go full on, inject that fucking urine in your bladder, which is ugh.
Yeah, I'm good on that. It's annoying because they'll come at like 6 a.m, knock on your door. Yeah. Sometimes you already got up to go pee, and then you have to wait around and chug water, and then you pee in a cup, but then you're forever bloated the rest of the day.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's just worth it because, there's a lot of questionable, seemingly super buff women in my sport. And I'm like, but you know what? I know that if they're in the UFC, they're getting drug tested by USADA, and that makes me comfortable. I want an even playing field. So
yeah. And that definitely is a factor too. Yeah. Cheaters suck when it comes to that. What about, I was going to say, so you guys don't really do you have an issue? I normally don't get political, but with like the vaccine passport, where like you have to go and like, if you're vaccinated and stuff like that, like, did they make you get vaccinated?
No. So, the UFC is just they're such a big company and everybody wants to be in the UFC. Sometimes, even though I've been in the UFC since 2014, you get scared, you feel expendable. And so you kind of feel like you got to do whatever they say. If you don't want to get cut, you don't want to, miss your opportunity, whatever. And I was so happy that Dana White came out publicly and said that the UFC will not be mandating vaccines. If you want to get the vaccine, okay, but they're not going to say that you have to get it. Now, whether or not they're going to put on events internationally and travel restrictions have, vaccine passport mandate, all that kind of stuff.
They've always had that for years for certain countries and stuff like that anyways, where you need
so I think the UFC is on the same page with, I hate saying anti-vaxxers. It sounds so crazy, but like people that don't want to take the vaccine for whatever reason. I think the UFC at least respects that, you shouldn't be forcing someone to put something into their body if they don't want to. And so I'm very happy with the UFC on that level, for sure.
On that level. Yeah. I got vaccinated only because I like free drugs. And from the government, I was like, okay, that's cool. I love free drugs. What about like with injuries and stuff like that? Are you guys like allowed to take like pain pills if they're like prescribed and like for a certain amount of time, or is that like, how does that work out?
Yeah, you did ask about pain management. Now we have a banned substance list
Mhm.
that seems to grow every day.
Right.
And basically what you have to do to be careful that you don't ingest something
Mhm.
topically or whatever,
Mhm.
is make sure that these substances, whatever you put in your body, are not on the banned substance list.
Mhm.
This list is, like I said, growing every day, but there's certain things that are not on the list. Now, if I can make something clear to you,
Mhm.
there's two types of testing. There's
Mhm.
in competition testing and out of competition testing.
Okay.
In competition testing is very, very strict. There's more things that are on the banned substance
Mhm.
list, meaning you can't have, marijuana or, like any of these drugs that are kind of like, are they really hurting us?
Yeah.
That you can't have in your system. Obviously, you can't have PEDs, steroids, and that kind of stuff. That's
Mhm.
for 24 hours leading up to the fight. Anything after the fight.
Mhm.
So that's in competition testing. Out of competition testing is the rest of the time. Now you can have in certain states or whatever traces of marijuana.
Okay.
Mushrooms are okay. There's different things that are actually not tested for. And so if that's how you live your life, you can live your life that way. And that's out of competition testing. So it sounds very big brother control.
Yeah.
And I guess it is, but I don't know. It's not as bad. They just don't want you to take
Yeah.
steroids and they don't want
Yeah.
you to be high right before the fight.
Yeah. Like you're not going to be smoking a blunt right before you go
Yeah,
fight anyways, like that.
that's
Would
not a big
probably counterproductive to what you're trying to do.
So what I was going to say, pain management, to answer your
Mhm.
question. Yeah, we all have pain, whether it's, on this end of the spectrum, just being sore from lifting weights, right? Or doing
Mhm.
whatever. And then, there's certain people that have great pain. I just had spine surgery in
Wow.
December. The pain that I was dealing with
Mhm.
leading up to the surgery, like actually leading up to a fight that I had,
Mhm.
I was getting spinal epidural injections
Okay.
for pain management. And the UFC was okay with that.
Yeah.
So it's weird, right? Like we can't have, like I get tattoos, lots of tattoos, obviously.
Mhm.
We're not allowed to take lidocaine. So like sometimes there's those like,
Oh, the numbing stuff or what? Really?
yeah. So we can't have that. But it's like, oh, you need a spinal epidural injection for pain. Like, I'm like, oh. So it's all about just knowing what's on the banned substance list.
Mhm.
There's a website called globaldro.com, and all the athletes, coaches, you can go to the website, put in the supplement, and it will tell you whether it's banned or not, and it'll
Oh,
say,
wow, that's cool.
it'll say in competition,
Mhm.
like green light, or like out of competition, like, no, don't do that, So it is kind of, there's a lot to it, but it's not that hard to not get in trouble. Accidents happens. There are tainted supplements, and
Yeah.
people, if they get in trouble, that's the go-to. Well, it was my protein had some crazy shit in it. I didn't know. And you're like, okay, well, they'll
Yeah.
test the box, and then they'll do a whole investigation and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's actually a lot to it, as I hear myself talk about it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would think, especially in sports and stuff. I mean, there's other like professions where people have to get drug tested. Like my mom was a registered nurse and they would do like the hair sampling tests and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't want none of my nurses all high if they're poking.
Yeah. Yeah. And like police officers. So yeah, there's plenty of jobs where you have to get like random drug tests and stuff like that. It may not be as like strict as like professional fighting. I remember my uncle, he used to work for waste management, and he was always what are they randomly selected. He's like, that's my new name, is randomly selected, because he's the one with the criminal record. But he just he has his well, he broke his back, so now he's on pain meds, but like he likes to drink. He never smoke pot or anything like that. It was just funny just because of like his past, that he was always the randomly selected guy.
Yeah, I feel like because the way I look, I'm randomly selected as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that does happen. Like you have a certain look, and it's normally not, you know what I mean? It's normally like the clean cut, like proper one that's hiding all the closet, hiding all their shit in the closet. It's like Jessie Soprano from that episode of Saved by the Bell, where she was addicted to the caffeine pill.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah.
Where she's like, she would never do drugs.
Yeah.
So that happens. A ton. So with the off competition testing, you said as long as like the state it's legal, like you guys can smoke pot and stuff like that.
Yeah, so there's a certain amount that you're allowed to have in your system. Like,
Yeah.
so in competition, you actually can have like 0.00 something based on the state. Well, it's actually based on like the commission. So if I'm fighting in Las Vegas, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they have a different set of rules than California.
Okay.
And New York is like the most strict. I know this because I fought in New York, and the UFC basically sent out a mass email being like, normally you're allowed to have a little bit of marijuana in your system, but it's so small, like I wouldn't even fuck around. And so I was like, okay, thank you for the warning. And so, you just stop smoking. I stopped smoking like 2 months before my fight because I just, I already got a strike. I don't need anybody, I'm trying to push the envelope here. But yeah, it's different on state to state. And then out of competition, yeah, you can smoke. And it's totally, actually, they just passed something. I'm sorry, because it's so new, like a month or two, that you can have marijuana in your system. I should really know the exacts on this, but yeah, they just passed something, and I believe it was not the UFC. It's like the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Okay. So like if you're fighting in Las Vegas or anywhere in Nevada, you can have marijuana in your system. But I have to like brush up on the exacts, but it's becoming more and more okay. And it's very unfortunate because a few years ago, people were cut completely, lost their jobs, or suspended for 4 years. If you're my age, I'm 34. If I get suspended for marijuana and I'm for 4 years, that's the end of my career. So I feel bad for the people that like right before it became legal, they got suspended for 4 years, and now everyone's like smoking weed and going to fight, and they're just and like lost their jobs. Yeah, so it's sad, and we're obviously in this transitional period where like the world is kind of realizing like it's not dope. It's not.
It's not a horrible, like it's better than alcohol. It's safer in my personal opinion. Like we've talked about it on the show a ton, that weed is definitely, like, even growing up, my mom's like, I would rather have you drive in a car with someone who's stoned than who's drunk, like.
Yeah. I mean, I recently, long story short, I'm 2 years sober from alcohol, and I smoke weed, not as like a jumping
or something.
Yeah, like not like that. But I started smoking, I smoked before casually, but like I really leaned into smoking when I was getting sober, and it just put me in a better mindset, and it helped in a lot of ways, and so I'm a big advocate for, using it whatever way. I do think it helps numerous ways,
Even with physical pain and stuff like that, it can definitely.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's different, right? There are definitely people that smoke and they're like, whoa, man, like paranoid, can't do it. And then, there are people that smoke, they wake up and they smoke, they eat breakfast and they smoke. Like, that's like my boyfriend.
Yeah.
But, and they can go about their day, and they're functional stoners, as I like to call them. And then there's people like me where I like to smoke, but I'm not a functional stoner. So I have to work out, do my errands, get all my stuff done. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, now I can smoke.
Now I'll have smoke a joint or whatever. I used to smoke when I was younger. I used to smoke all of the time. It was like I was wake up, smoke every time. It was smoke. And now that I'm older, I realized, so I was looking at like my supply, because I normally used to get weed like every like 2 weeks or something like that. And I spend probably about like $500-600 a month. And now I'm down to like 300. And I was like, holy shit. Like I didn't even realize that now, like I definitely, like I do wait until like the end of the evening, or, sometimes during the day, I have like my little vape pen or whatever. I'll take a couple of hits off of that. But yeah, I don't know if it's just like an age thing, but yeah, like if I smoke now, it's like, I'm kind of out of it a little bit.
Oh yeah. I'm always out of it. And I like that, cause I'm such a mental, overly critical, over analyzing type of person that it really just slows my mind down. And, not to be super like mushy, but just like, getting sober and realizing that you spent, 99% of your life drinking away all your feelings and
trying
not,
to hide them, drown them.
yeah, not coping with your emotions. And then it all comes rushing in and like, it's too much sometimes. I didn't know what the fuck anxiety was until I got sober. And then how do you deal with that? And marijuana helps some people. Some people, it gives them more anxiety.
Yeah.
And, you got to play with it. You gotta, find the right dosage, whatever
different strain or whatever.
Yeah.
They also have CBD too, which is great. I know you have a CBD sponsor.
Yeah.
That definitely helps too, where like you don't get that high, but you get like the medical benefits of it, where it can help with anxiety, like the lotions and stuff like that. I really do like the CBD stuff, although for me, because I am such a stoner, that like the first couple of times that like I actually smoked it, I'm like, all right, my brain is not like, it was like, what is happening? But I do like I like the CBD edibles because edibles really mess me up. They could definitely, like, I'll start drooling. I get so stoned. I'll sleep for like 15 hours. Like, it's nuts. So I do like the CBD edibles because it does help with like sore muscles and just like relaxing and not like being fucking comatose.
Yeah. I appreciate CBD. I'm that kind of person that like, I like Carmex because I put it on my lips and I feel it burning and I'm like, it's working, or it's doing. And then with CBD, you kind of, it's like a multivitamin, right? Where you, a lot of the time you eat it or you put it on your skin and you may not feel the effects right away, but it's doing something good. So I appreciate CBD. I love my CBD sponsor. Shout out A Botanical Bloom. But when it comes to really helping me mentally, emotionally, physically, straight marijuana.
Yeah.
nothing better.
Amen. So you were a young athlete. Did you ever like party and stuff when you were younger, like in school? Obviously you said you drank, but did you like dabble into any other types of drugs? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, so without going into, it all started when I was a little kid, but my family members were from a really small town in Northern California, and meth is prevalent up there. And so both sides, my mom's side, my dad's side, drug addiction problems. I saw that as a kid, no abuse or anything crazy like that, but you see what the drugs do to the adults, and you can either go one way or the other. You're like, oh, I want to do that too. Or, like I want to live in a trailer. And or you go the other route and you're like, this is not the life that I envisioned for myself. So I did dabble, but those images of what I didn't want to be, were very, very, very fresh in my mind from seeing my family members. And so I just, I ate mushrooms in high school here and there, had some crazy, just especially the first time you eat mushrooms and if you eat a lot, you're like, I'm never going to forget that,
Yeah.
I remember laying on my friend's bed in high school and she had a poster of like a little island and like the sun and like a little palm tree,
the black light poster.
No, just a normal poster. I don't know. And then, like I'm laying on the bed, everybody went outside to explore and like, I couldn't get off the bed. And the poster, like the rays are like, I'm like, oh, it's so bright and the water's moving. And like, yeah, you have those times as a kid where you dabble.
Yeah.
And then in college, so I don't know how in depth we want to go here, but so in high school, I was a hardcore drinker and like I was hanging out with all these punk rock kids. And then one night I got so blacked out drunk that I stabbed one of my friends with a knife. And
you're actually not the first person to stab someone on this show. So
right. Like I actually just interviewed a girl who had a similar situation and I'm like, oh, I'm a sister.
Yeah.
It's okay to joke about it now, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's fucked up, obviously. And at age 17, I obviously had a problem with alcohol. didn't stop until I was 32. I had some times in between, but yeah, basically I went to juvie for that. And that scared me straight for 4 years. I went to college. I didn't drink for 4 years, graduated college. And that's probably why I graduated college, was because I put the bottle down. And then when I graduated, I think I told you at the beginning of this episode, I went right into mixed martial arts, and, fighting, fucking partying, like all that kind of stuff. It's just like a wild life, a wild environment. And it was just a roller coaster of hard training, and then party, and then like have a fight, and then like celebrate, and then have a fight, and then, lose, and then drown your sorrows. And so there was always a reason to drink. And I would progressively lose a friend, lose a job, crash my car, but somehow I was always this functional alcoholic. Like I still won fights, and I still made it to training, and I still, looked from the outside okay, until very recently, my friend basically was like, look, girl, you live your own life, but if you keep, doing the crazy things you're doing, it's stressing me the fuck out, and I'm going to have to take a step back friendship wise. And this was like a best friend that I had for 17 years. So, as I said earlier, like not too close with my family, I was like, okay, like I took that as like the final straw. Yeah. And so 2 years ago, got sober, started leaning heavily into, working and being productive, and, kind of just making the most of being 34, because young in life, but, kind of older in my fight career. So I do feel like time is ticking down. So
just to take care of yourself a little bit more. Yeah. Cause when you're younger, I used to be able to freaking drink a bottle of vodka and then wake up and go to work and then drink another and be completely fine. And now I have 2 glasses of wine, and I'm like, why did life hurt so much?
Dude, I sometimes I stay up like till like midnight or 1 o'clock, and the next morning I'm like, I feel like I have a hangover, and I'm like, wow, what happened to me? Like I missed my bedtime and I feel hungover, as opposed to drinking handles of pop-off vodka when I was like 17 or 18, and I'm like, and then just wake up and go to wrestling practice, like ready to go, guys, and you're like, yeah.
It is crazy. I do. Yeah. And wait until you get like in your 40s, you'd be like, holy shit, how am I still alive? I don't understand how I'm still breathing. Like 30, like my mid 30s were like some of my favorite times, because like you're mature, you know what I mean? And like you have like enough money that you wanted when you're in your 20s. Sex is a lot better, mostly because most people know what they're doing. And it does get better as you get older. It's amazing. Yeah, I could see that. Like, what is like the oldest fighter? And is it different for like the men and the women in the league? Is it called the league? I don't know.
Yeah. So there are different weight classes, right? So like men's division, women's divisions, and in each, each gender has their own different weight classes and divisions, if you will. I fight at 125, 135, and I used to fight at 145. My weight fluctuates a lot depending on what I'm doing in my life, obviously. Yeah. I got really small when I was just drinking a lot, and people were like, oh, you look so good. Little do they know, it's just because I'm drinking wine for dinner. Yeah. So
they're grapes. They're
that's a fruit salad right there. Yeah. So so the women, we just had 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, we just had 2 women who are like, just like the Michael Jordans, of the women's division, like big names. Misha Tate and Marion Renault, they fought, and Misha, both are moms. No, actually, I don't know if Marion is a mom, but one woman was 44 and the other woman was maybe like in her late 30s, 37. So something like that, 36, 37. And one had just had 2 children, had a 5-year layoff. And then the other one was 44, just good for you, and top athletes, amazing women. And they put on a hell of a fight. One woman was coming back from retirement, and the other woman was the 44-year-old was retiring. So that gave someone like me, who's like, damn, I'm 34, I'm getting old, maybe it's time to hang it up. Like I ate one of those like little Mario stars. I was like, doop, doop, doop. I was like,
yeah, I think it's different for women. I think we actually like, we are like a fine wine. Like we get better and stronger as we get older. Like I really feel that we do, maybe because we've been through some shit.
I feel like that whole mom strength and that mom mentality.
Yeah, like having 2 kids, like if you could pop a couple of those out, yeah, you're the strongest human being on the face of the planet. I don't care.
I do think that like some kind of chemical, like animalistic, like provide for your cub type shit kicks in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's not
100%. Yeah.
I don't want that, that's not for me, but more power to the women that do want that,
Yeah. Yeah. Like I had that energy, but I don't want the kids. I'm like, how do I?
Yeah. I respect those women so much. Like, and I always feel like an asshole when I say this, but I'm like, poof. Sometimes my dog gives me a headache and it's like, I know
no, my dog drives me fucking, and she's 13. So she's old and she's kind of deaf. I'm like, you lazy ass bitch.
Yeah. My dog is not deaf and I'm still like, God.
Either that or she's just been really good at ignoring me. I'm like, it has to be one or the other. I mean, she's very smart and that's annoying.
My dog he's a 5-year-old bully. So a pit bull, bulldog mix. And he's great. He's all like buff looking. But he's just like the most gassy dog ever. So he's like burping and farting. And I'm like, shit dog, stop, shit dog. You smell like shit. Get out of here.
I think my dog, she has, like Sigmund Freud's psychosexual analysis, like the different stages. Stage 2 has to do with anal retentiveness, where it's like where you hold in, where a person holds in their poop because, they're like trying to gain something. Like they're very funny. Yeah. It's like this lack of control, like something happened to them when they were a kid and like their parents are over controlling. So like they'll try to control their poop. I swear to God, she has this. I swear. Cause sometimes she'll just, I'm like, it's literally coming out of her butthole. And I'm like, why aren't you just go to the bathroom?
My dog will, he will poop on things. So he'll poop on the fire hydrant. He'll poop on the wall, which obviously if you're pooping on a wall, you're just going to get all over the wall and your butt. And so I have to deal with the disgusting mess that comes back in the house. And I'm like, thank you. I wanted to wipe your ass like a child, And it's like, this is why I don't want children. Like, have to wipe my dog's ass.
Get him like a little doggy toilet or something like that. The strangest that like I've actually walked in on a cat using the toilet before. Have you ever? Yeah, like just actually going to the bathroom. Like you could train cats to use the toilet, and it was like I didn't know. I said, "Excuse me." Like I felt like it was
we just watched the Meet the Fockers the other day. That's hilarious. I didn't know that was real.
Yeah, when Sandeep, he's another comedian, also a psychologist, and yeah, he taught his cat. And I was like, oh boy, I love animals. Animals are the best. So now, like currently with like all of the newer stuff. Oh no, wait, we already talked about the pop thing. What about like other drugs? Because they're doing stuff with like therapy with mushrooms and stuff like MDMA. Like, are you guys allowed to do that kind of stuff? Or
so that's a great question, because you would kind of think no, right?
Yeah.
Like that, like, oh, like why? So
especially like for therapy purposes, like if it's
I believe it's called psilocybin.
Yeah.
So I have, the only reason I know a little bit about this is because I have a friend, former teammate, very well-known veteran of the UFC. His name is Ian Uncle Creepy McCall, and he's such a like a interesting fellow. He's got like the crazy mustache, like the pirate mustache. But this guy just knows his shit when it comes to mushrooms, and he's on multiple. I'm gonna sound like a uneducated person, but like boards and what is it called, like committees and like his goal, I feel like maybe not goal in life, but just one of his goals is to progress the use of mushrooms and psilocybin for athletes and specifically fighters, because we deal with a lot of CTE and other things that are just come with the risk you take and being locked on stage and punching each other in the face. And so I don't know the results of, you know, professional athletes, specifically fighters, taking this and the, you know, the outcome. I don't know. Is it amazing and interesting that we are even, you know, entertaining the idea that mushrooms could help? Yes. You know, would I try it? Hell yeah. Because I feel like, you know, as someone who poisoned herself for 32 years with alcohol, why not try mushrooms, this natural thing that grows in poop?
Right? It just comes out of some poop and it's amazing.
You know, like I'm all about kind of the longevity. I'm not one of those fighters. If you see my fights where I like take a lot of shots, you know, sometimes you can't help it, but I do feel like I'm more of an elusive fighter and I haven't taken that much damage, but maybe I have. And in the years to come, maybe I start having some, you know, knock on wood, some, you know, effects of CTE, you know? And so I just love that there's other options besides, I don't even know what fixes CTE. I don't even really want to like open that Pandora's box and like think about that because I'm still in my career and I'm afraid of like opening it and finding out what I'm doing to my body and my brain. You know?
It's like better left unknown.
I'll just close that until I retire and then go, oh shit, look what I did to my brain.
Like, oh, that's what happened.
Yeah, I just love the sport and I'm not going to stop till I'm going to rock it till the wheels fall off and I don't want to. No. And so hopefully by the time I'm done, if some bad shit does happen to my brain, you know, maybe mushrooms or psilocybin, that kind of stuff will help. We are allowed to have that in our system out of competition, that testing. So I know a couple fighters that microdose every day or for like periods of time or whatever it is. Ian McCall is a big advocate on all of that. And like I think of mushrooms and I'm like, ooh, a party, a good time. But I know that it could be more medicinal than recreational as well.
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely, I've always done it as like a party thing, but then over quarantine, I ended up like, my friend had some really amazing acid because I also really, really like acid. And I'm like,
never taken acid, never done acid.
Oh, acid is amazing. Acid is super fun. But it also has some benefits when it comes with depression and stuff like that. So over quarantine, I'm like, let me try it to help like with the depression and just, you know, the stress of everything that's going on. And microdosing, it is really helpful. Like it does, it's helped out a lot. I had read this study where it's like, oh, taking mushrooms can actually help you quit smoking. And I was like, that was like the first thing that I tried to do. And then,
that's cool.
And then I realized I'm like, I actually like smoking more. Like I just like my brain's like, we're fighting each other. It's so fun.
I just with the mushrooms and definitely the acid, the way my brain works, when I like something, I'm like, I want some more. I want some more until it's like, until too much. And then I realize then some kind of negative effect happens. And then I'm like, okay, I'll pull back a little bit, but like, I just don't have impulse control, you know, like,
I have the addict brain too.
Like how I ever make weight, you know, which is basically a lot of dieting and sacrifice, like is beyond me. Cause sometimes I'm like, do I even have willpower? You know, like, but I mean, obviously I'm sober, you know, I do have willpower, but it's just like, I know at the same time, if I was to microdose, I'm like, maybe I want to, what's macrodose, you know? Just
like, well, let me try a little bit more. My dude had microdoses then macrodoses. And I'm like, just give me the dose. All right. I'm like, I just want a full goddamn dose. So in the UFC, is there a lot of like depression? And now that they're allowing like ketamine, ketamine has been really popular in the depression thing, which is a little weird to me because me and my ex used to sell ketamine and I'm like, does that help with depression?
You know, this is something I don't know much about at all. The only reason I even know it's a thing is because 2 episodes ago on my own podcast, Sex and Violence with Rebel, I had on a sex addiction therapist and sex therapist named Dr. Kate. I'm gonna kill her last name, Balseri. It's like at Dr. Kate Balesari on Instagram. Amazing, amazing, very knowledgeable woman. And then I was on her Instagram page doing research or just scrolling or stalking her, I don't know. And it was like, hey guys, ketamine, blah, 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 it helps with this. And I was like, ketamine, because I have taken that one time in my previous younger party life. And I remember it just kind of put me into like what they call the K-hole, where you just kind of zone out, and I thought back later and I'm like, that's not the most fun I want to, like, that wasn't like, that's not how I want to spend my time. So I did that one time and then that was it. And so to think like now that drug that put me in that like sit on the couch for like 7 hours mode is something that can help you with depression and all these other things. I'm like, wow, like maybe the key is not like what drug, it's just the amount. Like, like settle down, Ashlee, settle down. So I don't really know what it helps. I don't know the chemical, stuff about it. But like I said, with the psilocybin, so amazing that we're living in a time, where that is an option, where we just have more options to help us with our mental health.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because mental health has always been kind of put on the back burner when it comes with pretty much everything, especially in this country. Even when it comes to like certain like 911 calls, it's like you need a healthcare provider, like a mental health care provider, not a cop, because that normally just, aggravates certain situations.
Yeah.
Even more. But with the depression thing and the ketamine, I have also been in K-holes and I never understood. I was just like, what? I'm like, I don't get it. But it does have a lot to do with how much you take. Also situations and stuff like that. Like we were at raves, like I used to be a raver. So it's like, we're not taking just a little bit, we're not trying to get through like our childhood trauma right now, or we are just in a way different way. I think, a lot of drugs that they have made like very illegal could have been very beneficial. It's just that they never really made anyone that much money too when it comes down to it.
Yeah. And I do believe that there's a lot of things that the government or, big companies have known about for a long time, but, that was going to take away from the mass production of other drugs and like pharmaceutical type stuff that I don't even like want to like sound stupid talking about, but conspiracy, like
but like at this point, it's like most people are seeing, they're like, it's not really a conspiracy.
I try to talk about things I'm not
100% up on.
I'm like, there's probably some shit going on. There's always some shit going on behind those doors. Can't trust anybody these days. Never could, probably.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think I think with the mushrooms and stuff like that, I think that is going to become more popular. I think, what was it? Is it Oregon or Seattle that didn't they decriminalize all drugs? I think they like specific ones.
Who decriminalized all drugs?
Was it Portland?
Okay.
It's like Portland. I feel like I should know this with the title of my show. I think it was like Portland or one of
What state decriminalized drugs? What state? Oregon, Washington. Oregon. It was Oregon.
Yeah. Okay. Portland. Yeah. Because Portland's been having some fun the past couple of years. It looks like.
I've never been there. I really want to go because I'm not vegan anymore. I'm pescatarian, but I just hear there's lots of yummy vegan food and it's just like a cool hipster vibe up there.
It is fun. Like I've done a couple shows out there. It is. Yeah. It's definitely, they have like some weird sulfur thing. My girlfriend was like, okay, like these sulfur found. I'm like, it stinks. Like why? Sulfur. Yeah. It smells like rotten eggs kind of.
Thank you. No.
Yeah, it's like these water things. Like it's a big attraction out there.
There's a town in Northern California. I don't know if you're familiar with, called Gilroy.
I don't think so. No.
They're the garlic capital of like the the United States or something. And the whole town smells like garlic. And like, I mean, it's just disgusting. Like driving through, I'm like,
yeah.
It's nasty. I don't want to smell sulfur. I don't want to smell garlic. I don't want, yeah.
If you ever go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, especially in the summertime, it always smells of yeast because of all the beer that they make. And that
probably gets me all riled up and excited.
Yeah. If you like, well, you can't drink it anymore, but if you like beer,
I feel like drinking.
That is actually,
don't stop in Milwaukee.
We are very good. Normally Wisconsin in general, we always have like the top 10 drunkest schools, top 10 drunkest cities.
Where you're at right now?
No. I'm in New York right now. That's where I'm from though. I believe there was even one time like something like we consumed more alcohol than like a town in Germany or something like I don't know, like they were competing with Germans. It's a high German population. I'm like, I don't know if we should be bragging about this. Like I used to be able to drink so much and now I'm like, and now I can't. I feel like I lost my Wisconsin card. You know what I mean?
My Wisconsin, yeah.
Like you move out of the state and they take your drinking card away from you. They're like, because anytime my friends have gone there, they're like, how do you survive? Like people very good functioning alcohol, and to them it's not being drunk or being an alcoholic, it's just like a way of life. That's just
I feel like that's what they say, like Italy, or I mean I have been to Italy, but it was like for like a military tour. I didn't get to like really experience it, but I forget what countries, but it's like certain countries they just have wine with every meal. You're a little buzzed. I'm like, I would love to just casually drink, but just like that, I'm like, if I drink a glass for lunch by like 5 a.m., I'm going to be on a gondola somewhere.
Right.
Like, yeah.
There is something about day drinking that just really gets me like, ooh, yeah. But then normally I'm like,
never ends well. Day drinking, like, music, like I love music, big music festivals. I'm just like, okay, pace yourself, because you pregame and then you $20 beers when you're there, and then you go to the, and it's just like by the main band you're fucking blocked out, and I'm like, why did I do this to myself every time?
Like sunburned, dehydrated.
Yes,
exactly. Good times. Me and my girlfriend, we used to just we would sneak in like a bottle of something really strong, like 151 rum or something, because I had big boobs, so I just stick it in between my boobs, and then we just get a big thing of Coke and then dump it in there, and just be fucking hammered. I miss concerts. I want to go to a concert.
I went to my first comedy show in forever. Sunday night we saw Brad Williams.
I love Brad.
And it was so good. He was a guest on my podcast, and God, he just killed it. And then a lot of his openers were really good too. It was great.
Brad's great. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. What do you want to promote? Social media, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm just a UFC fighter who's talking about sex and violence on her podcast. I have lots of people that come on. It's mainly combat sports athletes, so fighters, jiu-jitsu people, boxers, but every 2 or 3 episodes, I like to have like a comedian. I've had a porn stars, I've had, different musicians, just actors, Pauly Shore, Joey Diaz, like these different people that just mix it up a little bit. So it's a really interesting podcast. Talk a little bit about myself and what I've got going on, like day-to-day stuff, right? Getting back in the cage, my spine surgery. I'll interview the guests. We play a couple games like Fuck, Marry, Kill. And then we answer some fan questions. There's a segment called Lightning Sex Round where it's very revealing. You kind of tell everybody what you're into sexually. I like to say it's a mixture if Joe Rogan and Howard Stern had a baby, and that's their podcast, baby.
Nice. I love it. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so that podcast on Spotify, Apple, all the different platforms, and then on social media, myself, I'm Ashlee, ASHLEEMMA, and then the podcast, it's all spelled out, Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl.
Yay! All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, and we will see you later.
Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.